Oh, I gotta got it.
Yep.
We'll see if it works. Find out in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna close this tab. Yeah, okay, it looks like we're live.
So
hello. Now I've just got to close out all the tabs so I can actually see the chat. Hey everybody, welcome to Friday night. I have a special guest with me here tonight, Sean from The Guy Who Sews, who is this way on my screen.
G'day.
And I don't know if that's the right way for Sean or any of you. Maybe he's over here, who knows? I thought tonight would be a great night just to sit back and have a little chat about quilt shows, because we are both freshly back from a lovely weekend where Ian just texted me and said, we are both freshly back from some Quilt Con fun stuff and quilt shows. So for those of you that haven't been tracking, let me just bring you up to speed. Last week, I was at Quilt Con 2023 in Atlanta, and at the same exact time, Sean was, where were you, Sean?
Went to the MidAtlantic Quilt Festival in Hampton, Virginia.
Awesome. Which is a place I wanted to go. I wanted to go to that event until I found out that it was at the same time as Quilt Con, and I had to pick one, and I chose Quilt Con. Sorry. Anyway.
Talk about the different experiences. So, I think it's a great thing. And Quilt Con is such a huge show from what I understand. I've never been. But, if you get the opportunity to go, it's not something you really want to pass up.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason I passed it up this year is because it's, 3 hours from me next year. So
yeah, next year is going to be amazing. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. I think one of the things I would like to do over the next couple of hours is just talk about what your experience was like and kind of compare and contrast that to QuiltCon. And the first thing that I'm going to start off with is just the idea of what QuiltCon was. I have never been to QuiltCon before, but I had heard about it. And to me, the way it was explained is it's basically a quilt show on steroids. I had been to a couple of quilt shows. Spoiler alert, it was either a guild show or the one in Fredericksburg, but I really hadn't been to any other quilt show. So I didn't really quite know what to expect. I just expected the same thing, only bigger. I also have heard from my friends Tiffany and Ian, who have been to QuiltCon, that sometimes celebrities show up or well-known quilting personalities like Jenny Doan frequents them, things like that. So I was expecting to see some quilting personalities, maybe not as many as you would see at Quilt Market or Quilt Festival in Texas, but I was expecting it to be more populated and more concentrated than a quilt show. Talk to me a little bit about your experience with quilt shows. Have you only gone to the Mid-Atlantic? Have you been to others?
No, the Mid-Atlantic is the only one I've been to. I've been to it 3 times. And the nice thing is that it's like a 15-minute drive. So it's not like I have to book airline tickets or train tickets or drive for hours and hours or anything else like that. So, I can just kind of hop in the car, go through the tunnel over the bridge, and I'm there. There's great. Other shows I've wanted to go to, but I haven't made it to it yet. The Fredericksburg one is something I wanted to go to this year, if at all possible.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the Fredericksburg quilt. So just thinking about quilt shows, not Quilt Con. I know I've got 3 in the books. We were talking about this before we started the live stream. Arranging those quilt shows and trying to get to as many of them as possible can be so difficult when you've got a 9-to-5 to juggle and a family to juggle and other responsibilities, church, volunteering, school, kids, family, whatever the case may be. So for me personally, I have to pick and choose those quilt shows very carefully. I have to make sure that it's something that's close to home because I can't do a lot of traveling. I got to make sure that it's something that's affordable for me to attend because I don't have lots of funds to travel or do those other big things. And so what that means for me is QuiltCon was the one big show that I was going to travel for this year. But I do have 2, I'm a member of 2 different guilds. Both of them will be having shows this year. In fact, one of them is going to have a show March 31st to April 1st right here in my county. It'll be at a church in Woodbridge, Virginia. So if you're in the area around those dates, make sure to check my social media for that. I'll actually have 2 quilts hanging at that quilt show, and that's the first time I'll ever have quilts entered. I will also be attending my other guild's quilt show at the end of August, early September. And then, of course, the Sewing Expo at the end of September in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Are you planning to do Fredericksburg this year?
I would like to. That coincides usually with the State Fair of Virginia, so we'll just have to kind of see how it works out. But I mean, I could always run up there on Friday or Saturday and then run to the State Fair on Sunday. I like State Fairs on Sundays. It's not as crowded because a lot of people know I do not like crowds.
We'll talk about what the crowds looked like at both of the shows because I was kind of surprised. But before we do, the State Fair, what is that like? I've never been. I think it's in Richmond, right?
It's in Doswell, which is about 45 minutes north of Richmond, if you know where King's
Even
Dominion.
better. Even better.
Yeah. Basically, you get off the same exit as King's Dominion, and instead of turning into King's Dominion, you go down the street about 1.5 miles, and it's right there. You can't miss it.
I might have to make a trip there too. Every Sunday, my husband drives down to Richmond to do things with my stepson. So that just seems like it would be a natural thing for him to just drop me off for the day and then come back and pick me up. That'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It is different because it's not a dedicated quilt show. All the quilts are now hanging because they did have issues, from what I understand, where quilts either went walkabout or got damaged by people that don't appreciate quilts. So
They weren't hanging before?
Not all the way, like they have them hanging up like in the sky, like 10 feet above you. Like, when you go to a MidAtlantic, you can actually, see them at like eye level on that. But no, these are all hanging up where you can't touch them. 2 years ago, the doll quilts, which I entered, you could actually see they were hanging on a board, about 5-6 feet off the ground. So you could actually see them. This year, they were like way up in the sky. You couldn't really see them. But,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, when I talked to the superintendent about it, I said, like, why did you pick that spot? And she said, yeah, apparently some of them kind of went missing or got damaged. I don't know. It's like some kid stuck their hands on it after playing with cotton candy or something. Who knows? Like, she didn't give specifics, but it was kind of like, yeah, they had issues, and so they had to do something to protect the quilts, which I appreciate.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh wait, always late LP says, I work the Fredericksburg show each year as an ambassador and heard Too Late. You were there and Tula was there. I look forward to meeting you both. Tula was there.
Wow.
Wow. Like, wow. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, kind of just like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, so the Fredericksburg show is cool. I remember watching your video last year. I think it was last year when you went to the quilt show, or maybe it was the year before. I can't remember. You entered the doll quilt. Was that last year or the year before? It was last year.
I did the ice cream one that you can see right behind me. I entered that last year, and then I entered another one the year before.
Okay.
But I don't know I wasn't doing YouTube then, so I don't think I would have done a video. I wouldn't have done a video on it. So yeah, it would have been last year's quilt.
It was the ice cream quilt. That's what I remember. I remember watching the video where you won a ribbon and your wife who knits won, I think, 2 ribbons, right? Was that right?
Yeah, she did. She won best, first place for socks, first place for a shawl, and then apparently she won best in section.
So she got 3. It's been a while since I've seen the video, but
the 3rd ribbon never showed up. They had supply issues with them, and I asked about it. And I haven't heard anything, so I'll just ask about it when we go up this year and drop stuff off and say, hey, where's her best in show ribbon, best in section?
Come on, give me the ribbon.
But I was talking to the superintendent again when I was up there last year, and she said, yeah, apparently they had supply chain issues, which if you've worked shipping for more than 5 minutes or retail, you know what that's like. So
yeah, well, maybe that ribbon will actually show up one day. Hopefully, we'll cross our fingers for that.
No, we'll just ask for it when we go up there this year, and they'll give it to her. I don't think it's gonna be.
Well, at least she's got the bragging rights, right? So the record shows that she won, so it'll show up eventually.
And she is so modest about it. She doesn't really talk about it. I'm like, if it was me, I'd be singing off the rooftops to everybody that can listen. I mean, I got a 3rd place ribbon, and I sing and dance about it like I've won $1 million. So
Hey, there's just something about the recognition, right? Like I'm not, I'll be honest, both of the quilts that I've entered into my guild's quilt show, I'm not looking at either one of them as though I'm going to walk out of there with a blue ribbon, a brown, whatever the ribbons are. I think it's a viewer's choice. So I don't think it's juried, but I don't think I'm going to walk out of there with any ribbon. I'm just really excited that the quilts are going to hang in a show and other quilters and members of my guild are going to get to see them. That's what I am excited about.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the doll quilt for me is kind of my competitive quilt. That's what I try and do the most. But there are other quilts that I would probably intend on putting into the state fair this year with no expectation of getting a ribbon. Just like you said, just for the sake of having it hang.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, like, you do you. Like, you put it in for the reason that you want to.
Yep. I just want to show people quilts that I have made and been able to complete. And if a ribbon shows up, I'm not going to lie, I would be super tickled. I would be
Yep.
super excited. I would probably do a happy dance, pee my pants, and scream from the mountaintops too. But that's not the reason that I'm going to enter. And I don't want to focus on that because I know the talent that is in my guild. I know what I'm up against. There's some beautiful quilts, and it would be very competitive to walk away with a ribbon, to be completely honest. So I don't want to focus on that. I just want to share my creation.
Yeah, and that'd be great. We'll have to go up there and check that out. So
Cool.
that's the
Tessa.
Fredericksburg one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Tessa put in the chat, "Hi Tula, I'm Becca, and I just paid the mortgage on your house," which is a really good segue to some of the shopping. I want to talk a little bit about what you bought. What'd you get at Quilt Con or at MidAtlantic?
Okay, I didn't really need a whole lot. I was looking for a clapper, but I didn't really find one.
Okay.
So that's still on the bucket list of things to buy one day. I did want to get some more quilting rulers for ruler work for free motion quilting, and I found a really neat company up there called Quilt, and they're actually in Roanoke, Virginia, so they're in state. And this is the first one. I love how they're bright colors.
Okay.
They're designed them this way so that way you don't lose them as easily, because you put a clear ruler down, you never see it again. So apparently they do it like in 5 different colors if you order wholesale. But this is like a little straight ruler, nothing fancy. And then I got a little curved one. I'll turn it around this way here. And then you told me about this little snowman. And I'm like, what am I going to do with a snowman? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would I buy this? But you can do so many like half circles and quarter circles and this size and this size. And there's a lot you can do with this. So at first glance, it doesn't look that impressive, but it actually can do some neat stuff. I have not had a chance to play with these yet. I want to, and that'll be coming up very, very soon. And then I also got, this is going to look like ribbon candy.
Yeah.
In 3 different sizes.
Okay.
And then the last one is this huge ninja star.
Can you throw it? Will it come back like a boomerang?
Not a boomerang. I don't think that was not one of the selling features. It wasn't on the list of stuff it can do. I can actually throw a boomerang and make it come back. That was a skill I learned before moving to America. That was that. There were some nice quilt kits. There were some nice patterns and everything else. But I mean, I have more than enough patterns and projects to keep myself going for quite some time. So I didn't buy any fabric or anything like that. But I did jump on the legit kit bandwagon.
Uh-oh, what'd you get? Oh my goodness, you got the dragon. That's awesome. So what are you said you didn't buy any fabric and it looks like you just got the pattern. Wait, hold that back up. We have to understand. Show me the side. Let's see how thick this package is.
Yeah, okay. So this is the fun part. So first, like, I'm not going to give away the pattern, obviously, but that, it shows you the actual dragon itself. And then it shows you like how it all goes together. The assembly instructions on how it all goes together is 19 pages. And that just shows you how each panel goes together. But the actual, it's all foundation paper piecing. Oh, hang on, what's all this? I lied. Okay, so that's 19 pieces. And then there's a cutting guide, that's 49 pages. And then the actual pattern itself is 131 pages. So
And
this is the pattern. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But I just bought the pattern because I don't want to do red.
you don't want to do red.
Don't want to do red.
Okay. So what are you going to do?
Maybe green, maybe blue, maybe purple, maybe pink. I keep going back and forth. I think until I get my tail to the fabric store and actually go and pick out the fabrics and put it in my cart and have them cut it, and I slap down my card and just pay for it, who knows what color it's going to be.
So you're going to take the pattern and you're going to recolor the dragon, and
Yes.
you're going to, wow.
It's not going to be easy. I've been looking at it all week, but I have a lot of solids here. It's all Kona solids is what they call for. So I have a lot of stuff here. The background fabric I have here already. So I just need the dragon stuff. Now the flames, the flames coming out of the dragon, I'm going to do what they tell me to do. I'm not changing that part.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, because that looks awesome as is. But yeah, the dragon itself, I want to do a different color. I mean, originally I was thinking green, but now pink keeps coming back to me because that would be the colors of the dragon from Shrek. And I think that would be really, something different. But I don't know. I keep going back and forth. Who knows what it'll turn out to be?
You got a few people in the chat, 1 vote for purple and 1 vote for green.
Yes. Chloe says, Sean, I thought you wanted green. I'm excited to see what you showed. I did originally think green, and I may still go with green. I don't know. We'll see what it is. I may end up not making the decision until I really do think I'm going to go to the store and see what they have and see what speaks to me on that day. And that
I think that's wise.
That might be what we do. Brenda's also asking, am I making a Wizard of Oz quilt? Yes, I am. And you'll see I've made 4 of those blocks already out of the 9. I've released 7, I think, of 9 blocks already. But yeah, you can definitely see more progress on that on the podcast. But
is that's the Wizard of Oz quiz from Art Meets East, John from Art Meets East?
East Quilt Company, yes.
That's it. Sorry. I always get I just know him as John. So I get the name of the company mixed up all the time. I love his quilts. I've done a deep dive on his social media and his website. You guys got to check this guy out. He makes patterns, but they're all whimsical and fun. He also likes to do patterns of animals, but he throws something fun in there. For example, I think it was it's some animal, a dog or a cat or whatever, and the animal's mouth is open and it's just like shooting a rainbow out of its mouth.
That's the unicorn one, I think.
So
yeah, I think it's the unicorn with the rainbow out its mouth. I actually think I saw that State Fair last year. Someone had made one of those. There's also one of the bunnies that's blowing bubbles with bubble gum.
Yeah.
The Mythical Dachshunds that I'm doing is also from him. Yeah, he does some really, really neat stuff. So yeah, definitely check out the Art East if you haven't done so already. Because have you done any of his patterns yet?
No, I just lurk and I watch and I love all of them. I've got a couple in mind that I would like to try, but I'm trying really hard this year. Thanks to you, I'm doing the weekly, I'm going to call it a podcast instead of a vlog. It just fits better with what I'm doing. The weekly podcast that I'm doing, talking about the projects that I've been working on and what my quilty goals are, it's helping keep me a little bit more focused on what I need to do. And what I'm finding is I really can only juggle 3 active projects that are going. That's not including like my block of the months or whatever, but I can only juggle 3 in progress blocks from start to finish, or quilts from start to finish. So I'm trying really hard to just add things that I would like to do to a Pinterest board or an idea backlog. And then when I'm ready to pick up another project, I'll pick what speaks to me. A number of his are on that backlog to consider, but I haven't started anything yet.
That's good. Yeah, just prepared to do a lot of cutting.
Yeah, I saw that. I've also heard that with our friend Elizabeth Hartman. And you know about that. Those quilts are awesome for her patterns, but the cutting for that is a lot too.
Yeah, they're on par of each other. I mean, I think if anything, John's patterns might have more pieces than
Oh gosh.
yeah, but it's well worth it. And that's one of those things you just take your time with. Like if you want to finish a quilt in a day,
Not gonna
those
happen.
those are not the patterns for you. I mean, it's not uncommon. Like I just sit there and take my time with it. Sometimes it takes me 3 or 4 hours to cut the fabric, but I'm just lackadaisical. I sit there and cut out a piece or two, and then I watch some TV for 5 minutes, and then I might cut some more. Like I'm not sitting there racing to get it done. So
Yep. Yep, that's awesome. So let's talk about the legit kits for a second, because I have not seen a legit kit in person. And obviously they were at MidAtlantic and you got to see some of these quilts up close and in person. I have heard Mike Odell say that his quilts, once they're put together, they look like paintings. What are your impressions? What did you think when you saw them in person?
very much so. I mean, they're definitely, yeah, they look like paintings. I mean, they're very nice. He does not, yeah, he's not exaggerating one bit. I do have a photo of the and a video of the booth. I keep wanting to call it a stall or whatever it is, but I'm trying
We
to
know
use
what you mean. It's totally fine.
I want to use the proper names when I can. It was by far the most colorful, bright, stare you in the face booth that there was there. It's absolutely stunning and something that you really need to see in person. They are not cheap, but you're getting a lot of value for what you're getting. I mean, it's not just your run-of-the-mill pattern either.
Well, I mean, hold that book back up. The pattern isn't 10 pages.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy. They do offer a online, like a PDF download version.
Yeah.
I mean, this pattern was $89 US. You could buy the online version for 69, but I figured by the time I printed out 200 and some pages, that was definitely worth the $20 extra.
Especially
But
when
if
you consider that they printed it already on the FPP paper for you, so you didn't have to change all that out either.
exactly, I mean, but having the online version is nice, especially if you live like overseas and the cost of shipping would be enormous. It is nice having that as well. Or if you just can't wait and you want to get started, that's always an option for you as well. But I figured I might as well just spend the extra. And that was one of those things that I wasn't necessarily looking to buy. But once I saw it, I was sitting there talking to Hayden from Legit Kits, because Mike wasn't there. He had to work that weekend. And he was saying too, like the smaller kits, like the Finch and some of the others, are actually more difficult than the larger ones because there's so many small pieces. Because I told him, I said, look, I am a total beginner when it comes to FPP. I know how to do it. Beth taught me last year, and I've done like one simple project. But yeah, this kind of scares me. But I figured if I didn't buy it now, I was never going to. So,
Well, I bit the bullet. I have Ursula, they call it Ursula Minor, and I don't know why they did that, because the name of the constellation is Ursa. So I have crossed out the U and the L in the name. I'm gonna call the quilt Ursa. But it's the baby polar bear. They have a quilt where it's a mommy a mama polar bear and a baby polar bear. But they also have a wall hanging that's about 30 by 40. That's just the baby polar bear. And that's what I'm going to do. There are a couple blocks in there that are very detailed, but by and large, most of it's just really big pieces. So I'm hoping that it'll go together pretty quickly.
yeah, that's good. Have you done much FPP in the past, or?
I would classify myself as still a beginner when it comes to FPP. I I'm not I'm not an expert by any means, but I do enjoy doing FPP. I enjoy making projects with it, but where FPP really shines for me is when you're trying to do some of that piecing that you just can't get with traditional squares and half square triangles, right? when you start getting those jagged edges or you're trying to put irregular shapes together, I think that's where FPP kind of comes in nicely. And I do really well when I don't have to join blocks to other blocks. That's kind of where my downfall is, getting those points to match up perfectly. So I'm a little nervous about this, but I'm also really excited because the way they've structured the legit kits is you put together, it's a grid pattern. And so you make a block. So if you're going to do a 4x4, right, you have 16 blocks that are all the same shape. They're all the same size. So once you've built each of those 16 blocks like this, like you're showing me right here, once you've built all of those blocks together, you can just kind of sew it together like a traditional quilt, I think.
Yeah. Yes, basically. I mean, that's how, and this is available on their website. So I have no issue showing this. You know, it's not a copyright issue.
Yeah. And if you hold that back up, this is why, so everywhere where you see those little numbers, right, those are pieces of fabric. That's the color code of the fabric from the legend that you use. So like you see a block over there with the letter P in it, that block, that whole block is just one piece of fabric. But then you have some blocks on here that could have 100 pieces of fabric, and that's where all that detail starts to come into play.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, but I am not rushing into it. I will take my time. I actually purchased an Allison Glass trinket FPP project because there's 4-inch little squares, and it's very beginner friendly. There was actually Christina, who I think's in the chat right now, who suggested that I do that first, and I was like, that's a really, really good idea because it's very simple, very easy, very beginner friendly. So I'm going to do that first, make myself a little quilt out of that, and then it'll kind of give me the foundation and the muscle memory and that sort of thing there to try and tackle this.
I like that idea. That's a great idea. And then there are a couple of people in the chat that are asking what FPP is. FPP stands for foundation paper piecing. The whole idea here is that you're building your quilt blocks in reverse backwards. You're sewing on lines that are on a piece of paper while you're attaching your fabric to the back of a piece of paper. And it sounds more complicated than it really is. Ian has an awesome tutorial video. If you have never heard of FPP before and you want it broken down, he can drop the link for his FPP tutorial in the chat, and you guys can hop over and check that out.
Ian does wonderful tutorials on whatever he touches, you know, like he just has a talent for that.
Well, that's what he does for a 9-to-5 job. So he's right in the right alley. He's got the right 9-to-5 career, and it parlays well to his YouTube channel. He does really good tutorials.
Yeah.
All right.
Anya says, I tried to do FPP last week. It's harder than it looks. I think the trick with this is to start with something easy, something simple, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to jump straight into the dragon, like just from scratch. I mean, I've seen people that have done it successfully, done these things as their first project, and more power to them. But I'm thinking I'm going to start this trinket thing first, and just kind of get I think once you get the foundation of, and because it's definitely backwards to what you're used to, I think once you get the hang of how it works, it becomes a lot easier.
Yep, I agree.
It's like anything.
Yep. So what was the one thing you said? You bought the Allison Glass trinkets, you bought the pattern for the legit kit. When you showed up at MidAtlantic, was there one booth that you knew you wanted to go to, or just one product that you wanted to at least look at and consider buying before the weekend was up?
The rulers. And I was actually going to go to a different vendor that I purchased from last year, but when I saw the Quilt Off ones, they just looked like they were a better product and a better suited for what I wanted. So, and their customer service was just phenomenal. And that kind of sold me on it too.
We've got Natalie in the chat who's asking a question that's off topic, but we'll take it. She said, I'm trying to figure out Sean's accent. Where is he from? You want to talk about that?
This is Natalie Schumacher.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm from the same country as you. She's from South Australia, I believe, and I'm originally from New South Wales. I'm about 6 hours north of Sydney. I've been here 21 years, so my accent to most Australians does sound a little Americanized. Um, when I go home, I don't know if they're trying to just dig at me or whatever, but a lot of my friends will say that I sound like a Yank.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You don't sound like a Yank to me, Sean.
I know, like, yeah, it's I get mistaken for British all the time.
Okay, I
Which,
can see that. I can
yeah,
see that.
if you don't deal with both accents on a regular basis, I can definitely get that. Like, it's not that hard, but yeah. And sometimes I've had people ask me if I'm from Boston. I guess I say certain words the right way that they think I'm Bostonian. I've had like 5 or 6 people over the years say that I'm from Boston. I'm like,
Okay,
no.
say garden.
Garden?
No, I don't hear it.
Yeah.
Christine said, I can hear Yankee when you say saw.
I mean, I've been here 21 years and I've worked with a lot of New Yorkers, and people from the North. So I guess they've rubbed off on me a little bit. So yeah, there is certain words that will sound Americanized for sure.
Absolutely. I grew up in Michigan, and I lived just outside of Detroit, in the suburbs of Detroit, for all of my life, for a very long time. And that's about 20 minutes from the Canadian border. So a lot of the dialect in the Detroit area is influenced by Canada. And so things like A and the long vowel sounds,
Yep.
those were part of my dialect. But the longer I've been in Virginia, the more I feel like I have lost it, except when I go back home, that
Yeah.
totally comes right back. It's just who you're around. You pick up on how other people talk. So
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I'm the same way. Like, I would go into work sometimes on a Monday morning, and my boss would look at me and go, "You talked to your parents this weekend, didn't you?"
love it. Why do you say that? Because you sound just like them.
Yeah, the Aussie came, the accent was stronger. And it's like, yeah, he was like, "Yep, I know who you talked to this weekend."
All right, so Quilt Con. Let's talk about how that compared. So we talked a little bit about your shopping experience. I will tell you, Legit Kits was not at Quilt Con, but there was some FPP booths there. Violet Craft was there. I got to meet Violet Craft. That was kind of nice, but that was kind of like, it felt like Legit Kits was here and Violet Craft was there. So kind of had that. I don't know what else to ask, but I want to talk a little bit about crowds. Let's do that.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about the quilt show, when I went to Quilt Con, I was expecting the place to be packed, like shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, no room to move around, just crowded beyond belief. And that actually wasn't the case. There were a lot of people there, but the way Quilt Con was set up, there were 2 floors for vendors, and then another floor for just the quilts. And then you had the lecture hall and all of the workshop classrooms, and tons of areas where you could just grab a table or a chair or a little quiet corner and just work on a project or have a conversation with friends. So while there was a lot of people there, you got to be spread out quite a bit, and you didn't feel like you were on top of each other. What was your experience at MidAtlantic?
Okay, so last year, I was a little disappointed with the Whip City aisles for the vendors. It was very narrow. It was very crowded. I actually mentioned on one of my review videos last year about that. And this year it was a whole lot better. The aisles seemed to be wider with the vendors. You could actually move around. The crowds, it was interesting because I've never been on a Friday before, but I took a half day. I took the afternoon off on Friday and went up and hung out up there. And when I got there at like 1 p.m. on Friday, there was 1 million people there. And which I thought was weird. I was like, this is supposed to be Saturday's crowd. But yeah, everybody was there Fridays. And then I'm walking around with one of my viewers that I met, and we hung up for like 3 hours, and we'll talk about that more later. But about 3 o'clock, we got hungry and we figured, oh, we'll go get something from the concession stand. And I'm looking around and it's like a ghost town. So it's like everybody must have got there at 10 o'clock when the place opened. And then by 3 o'clock, they were done. And so it was kind of nice walking around the last couple of hours, being able to talk to vendors, being able to just take our time and not worry about crowds. And then Saturday is usually a really, really busy day, but it was cold, it was wet, and I think that kept a lot of the folks away. I mean, it was still busy, but it was not what I was expecting.
Yeah. I was expecting a lot more bodies at Quilt Con. I really was. I think the busiest time felt like Thursday morning when the rope dropped for the first day. That's when Quilt Con felt the most packed. But as the day went on, it felt less congested. And as the weekend went on, it didn't feel as congested either. And I think that's just because people were creating their schedules and they were rotating around. The classrooms, every classroom that I was in, all of the workshops were completely sold out. There weren't empty seats, and they were really good workshops. The lectures seemed to be pretty good, pretty nicely populated. I didn't go to any, but I saw pictures. They looked nicely populated. I just think people were milling about and taking their time and really just enjoying themselves. I will say the one area that was crowded was the bar. Apparently quilters like to drink.
Yeah, we didn't have a bar. There was no bar at MidAtlantic.
Well,
so
it was at the hotel. So Quilt Con was at the Westin Hotel in downtown Atlanta, and it's 3 buildings that are kind of connected together. The hotel building had on the lobby a bar / restaurant, and it actually had these really cool kind of like sitting areas. So instead of having just a bunch of booths and dining tables, they had nooks and crannies all over the lobby floor. They would put up these partitions on either side, and then up against the wall there'd be a TV, and then in this little cubby that they have built, there'd be a couch and a great big gigantic coffee table and a couple of armchairs and maybe another love seat, so that you could bring a group to that cubby and have a semi-private conversation, and a waiter or waitress would walk by and serve you drinks or food or whatever. That area was always packed. It was really hard to get a cubby or a table or a booth or anything like that to sit and just have drinks or appetizers or refreshments with your friends. I think that's where everybody was for most of the time. It was at the bar.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was hotels nearby, but it was all the MidAtlantic is at a convention center, and I mean the Hampton Convention Center. I mean, it looks like pretty much any other convention center I've been to, which is like 4 of them. One of them actually is the one in DC. I've been to that one a couple of times. Not as big as that, yeah, it's a little smaller, but yeah, it's all on one level, which makes it easier. Trying to think what else, but yeah, I mean, it was just, it was nice. I mean, if you're ever in the area and you get a chance to go to the MidAtlantic one, I highly recommend it. I mean, definitely go check it out. It wasn't really that crowded. Like if you went outside the exhibition hall where all the vendors and the quilts were, there was plenty of seating. Like even on Saturday at noon when I went and did my meet and greet, I mean, I went down by where there's staircases where near the classrooms and that, and it was very, very quiet, which was nice because I originally thought I was going to do it near the concession stands just to make it easier, but then I figured, it was really crowded there Friday, and I'm like, no, I've got to change this. And I think it was good that I changed the location because it was a lot easier. It wasn't as it was quiet. It was almost library quiet where I was, which was nice.
And listen, I found nooks and crannies of quietness so I could go and recharge. And my saving grace was a room that I quickly claimed for me and the friends that I traveled with. I have a friend who lives just outside of Atlanta. She belongs to a quilt guild, and their guild displayed quilts at Quilt Con, which I thought was amazing. She made a Underground Railroad quilt, and for whatever reason, this quilt wasn't on the floor at Quilt Con. It was in like this volunteers lunchroom. It was like a break room where you could go. It had a round table with a couple of outlets. The air conditioning was kicking in this room, like it was on steroids. So it was a great place to just kind of go and cool off if you were feeling a little hot or if you're feeling a little hot and you just need to sit down and recharge yourself or your phone. This was a great room kind of off of the beaten path to go to. And her quilt was in there. So the first day when we met up with her, she took us to this room to show us her quilt. And we quickly started making that kind of like our regrouping room. So we didn't have to go back to our hotel room. There was something to be said for having a quiet area to go and just collect yourself and your thoughts and just get a little bit of a recharge so you could head back out there. I loved that. That was great.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's important, like that you brought that up, because yeah, it can get very overwhelming, especially if it's a big crowd. And it was like I look for that this year. I didn't really have time last year because I was only up there for like 2.5 hours. But yeah, I found my little space. And there was plenty of spaces, thankfully, in Hampton where you could just go do that. So it's nice because as long as you have your wrist, like they give you a wristband when you go in, it's good for the whole weekend. So I mean, you can walk in and out of the exhibition hall as many times as you see fit, which is nice. So if you need to get out and come back, it's not like when you go to a concert or a sporting event where once you leave, that's it.
Yep. Somebody did ask earlier in the chat, probably like an hour ago, on your shoulder behind you, you have an aquarium. What's in the aquarium?
That is our, where is she? Come here, Rowena.
Rowena?
Rowena is her name. She is a yellow slider turtle.
Okay, they were asking if it was a turtle.
It is a turtle. She was originally a classroom pet from my wife's classroom, and she came home for the summer, one summer, and I decided that she wasn't going back.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, she's been here ever since.
Great.
My brother was a huge fan of turtles. He loved turtles and tortoises. That was his thing. Every time we went across a creek or a river, we had to look to see if there was a tortoise that he could pick up and take home with him.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was just his thing, and we lost him 5 years ago. And to me, it's kind of like a connection to my brother having Rowena here. So yeah, it was nice for her to spend a few months in the classroom with Amanda, but yeah, once she came home for the summer, that was it. Yeah, that's where she stays.
Sorry to hear about your brother.
It's okay. I mean, these things happen.
Yeah. I do want to share a funny story. So, and this is a good segue. We can talk about your meetup and people that you met. This will be a good segue for that. So while we were at Quilt Con, I had a couple of people stop me and say, "Hey, Katie said I have to take a picture of you. I have to take a picture with you." And I was like, okay. So I don't know if it was Katie Jolson from Greenland or Katie Vaught. I'm not even sure if I'm saying her last name correctly. There's two Katies that I am familiar with, but somebody named Katie kept telling people that if they ran into me to take a picture with me and to send it to them. So I'm curious if that was Katie from Greenland. I just want to throw that out there. Talking about, go ahead.
As I say, she's in the chat here, so she'll be able to confirm that with us fairly shortly.
Yep. I'll be looking for that answer. You mentioned you had a meetup with some of your content creators, with some of your subscribers. What was that like?
It was good. I mean, I figured, like I knew there was only a handful of people that mentioned that they were coming down. So I figured, why not just offer it rather than, because you get into those big exhibition halls and, you could be in the same spot and not see each other. So I figured, why not set aside, because I think you and I talked about that on one of our chats eons ago, and figured, why not just set aside a place and a time and just see if anyone shows up. And if nobody shows up, it gives you a chance to sit down and just relax and regroup your thoughts before you go back in again anyway. So I figured, either way, it's going to be great. So, but yeah, I had I was due to have two people show up. One met me in the exhibition hall about an hour before, and then the other lady, who I think's in the chat right now, Chloe Morgan, her family was actually down in the Williamsburg area, which is not far away from here, on vacation that week. So she actually came to the quilt show and hung out for a little while, and we had a good chat because she lives up in Rhode Island. So
Oh, okay.
it's not like she's local. So it was just like kind of good timing that she was actually able to come and visit and say hi. So that was really neat to be able to put some faces to a name, because all my viewers get to see me every week, but I don't get to see their faces necessarily.
That's right. That was one of the things that I've always said, like going into Quilt Con, I told people if you saw me and you wanted to say hi, you wanted to take a picture, whatever the case may be, stop me. I don't know you. I don't know what you look like. Most of you. There's a few of you that I've seen on Zoom because you're part of my VIP membership, but for the most part, I don't know my subscribers' faces. I don't know their voices. I might not even know their real name. I just know what their little name is on YouTube that pops up.
Right.
So I definitely put it in their hands as to whether or not they wanted to approach me. And I will say I was completely overwhelmed with how many people stopped me for pictures. One lady asked me to sign her tote bag. That was a new experience for me. There was a
Mhm.
lot of people that stopped and they had kind words to share. It made me feel good. Um, it was nice. I don't get recognized usually when I go out. So like having somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, I know your YouTube channel. I watch your videos." It was a different experience for me. Is this the first time that you've been recognized since you've started your channel?
For sure. Yeah. Last year, nobody knew me from Adam. So it was really neat. I remember her name was Debbie. I don't remember her last name, but yeah, she recognized me at the Legit Kits booth, and I just thought that was really neat. And then, yeah, the other three ladies that I met up with, we had emailed back and forth and had plans to meet up. Actually, one of them was the reason I went up Friday afternoon, because she's like, "I really can't make it Saturday. Is there any chance you can come Friday afternoon?" And I was like, you know what? Maybe I need a half day off work. So
Yeah. And I just realized I blew my nose and didn't mute the microphone. So sorry about that for anybody who's listening. Yeah, it's such a unique experience. And I will say for me, and I don't know if this is the way it was for you, but for me, it was a heartwarming experience because when you create content, you're usually talking to an empty room. Well, you're talking in a camera lens most of the time, but
right.
you're in an empty room by yourself, you're making your video content, you edit it, you put it out there, and you can see how many people watch it, and you can get a sense for how many people are enjoying the content by the thumbs up, the number of times people are hitting subscribe, or the number of comments that they're leaving, but you don't know what it means to them until they tell you in person. And that was the piece that really, really made me feel good. That was my favorite part of QuiltCon, meeting all the people and hearing how much they're enjoying the content that I'm making. Not to sound conceited, I hope it doesn't sound that way, but that meeting the subscribers was my favorite part.
No, I don't think it does, because I think at the end of the day, you are very much like myself, where we're not here to make millions and millions of dollars, because we're definitely in the wrong field for that.
That's right.
But we are here and make content because we enjoy it, we love doing it, and we want our viewers to have a good experience. And so it's like anything, words of affirmation mean the absolute world to a lot of us, especially when you're introverted. I feel
Yep.
like that it means more to us because we don't go out and seek it.
Exactly. Words matter, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a weird thing for me to say because I used to be the type, and I still am. I don't get me wrong. I think actions speak louder than words. I absolutely do. However, words can have the power to hurt, but they can also have the power to make you feel loved, especially when they're genuine and sincere and heartfelt.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I've experienced is the positive words and the positive comments and interactions I've had with people. have definitely been sincere and genuine.
Yep, absolutely.
And
So next year, when you go to Quilt Con in Raleigh, that's going to be fun because I've heard you're going to go, Sean. Are you going to Raleigh? That's your plan, right?
plan is to go to Raleigh, so yes.
That's awesome. So we have talked about this. You and I have talked about it offline. I have talked a lot with Donna about it. I know you've mentioned it as well. When February 2024 rolls around and Raleigh is hosting Quilt Con, I will be there because it's only a 3 or 4 hour drive from my home. You're planning as of right now to be there. I know Donna from Handmade by Ying is going. Ian from the Off Kilter Crafter is going. I am trying my best, and so is Ian, to get Tiffany to come to this side of the country for it. But there's going to be a lot of content creators, at least like the smaller channels, right? Like we're not Jenny Doan or anything, but we all have our own followings and we're planning to go. We would love it if you come too. And to that end, I know there's been discussion with Donna and some others about organizing a creator meetup so that you can come to one spot and meet all of the YouTube personalities that you follow in one location instead of having to hunt them down. Don't have details on that yet, but I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, and it might be one of those things where we don't really know how that's going to pan out until we get there because it's in a new location, and we might not, like where you originally think where you go to be able to meet up might not be a good option. Like even to a spot like I mentioned before, like I wanted to meet up in one spot and I was like, this isn't going to work, and I've been there twice before. So yeah, we'll keep you posted. I mean, that's what the community tab is for.
That's right.
We can post on that once we all decide what we're going to do, and just keep everyone updated. So that'll be a lot of fun to do that.
I'm really, really excited about that because, well, okay, so we also got to meet other content creators, right? So there weren't a lot of them, but I'm excited to meet content creators that I haven't met before at QuiltCon as well. So that's exciting for me too. So story time. At QuiltCon, T Quilts was there. And she and I were talking offline about when she was going to be there because I wanted to be able to meet her and at least take a picture with her and say hi. But I had to make sure that our schedules coordinated for that because she was only going to be there, I think, Thursday and Friday. Well, she had shared that she was going to do a meetup with her T Quilters at 1 p.m. on Friday. And I swore that the location she said was going to be near the escalators on the second floor. So it would have been all the way at the back of the vendor hall at the second level. And so we went there and we waited for a few minutes and we didn't see her, but I had to skedaddle because I had a workshop that started at 1:30. So I left and I was traveling with three friends, actually, two of them of which were named Donna. And no, it wasn't Handmade by Ying. I just apparently have a ton of Donnas in my life. So I was traveling with two friends named Donna and Mary, of course, and Mary and I were waiting to see if we could find T, and we didn't see her. So we had to leave. We went to the workshop and Mary had mentioned that she was disappointed that she didn't get to meet T because she really wanted to get a picture with T. She really wanted to meet T. And I was like, okay, I'm sad too, but oh well, it is what it is. So we go, there was a meetup with Karen Brown from Just Get It Done Quilts. We went and chatted with her for a little while, took a couple of pictures, had a bit of a conversation. And then after we wrapped that convo, we went back into the vendor hall and we come around the corner and I'm looking at this vendor's booth. I'm looking at what they have laid out on the table and I hear T, and she has a very recognizable voice. You know her voice when you hear it. And I was like, that's T. And I looked up and there's T right there, which was awesome. So I ended up being able to get to meet her, and Mary got her picture with T, which was great. So
that's awesome. I do see that someone asked where in Raleigh the Quilt Con is next year. It's going to be at the Raleigh Convention Center, which I believe is downtown, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's right.
And then someone else was asking about how Beth is doing. Beth is doing awesome. She had little Archie on Tuesday, I believe it was.
Yep.
She and Archie are doing quite well. I've seen photos and that sort of thing on her Facebook page. So yeah, she's doing very, very well. I think she's still in the hospital, but I'd imagine she'll be coming home fairly soon.
I think the last update I heard from Beth is that she had to have a procedure done either before she leaves the hospital or shortly after she leaves. So, but I haven't kept up, like I haven't been refreshing the feed every minute. And I think that was what I read maybe yesterday. But yeah, she and the baby are doing fine. I think it was a complicated delivery. There were a few unexpected complications, but everybody made it out just fine. Mama and baby are both happy and very healthy.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Mary said, I didn't even know what the community tab is. I don't even. So when you're on a computer, and I think maybe on tablets and phones, you can see it now. If you go to somebody's YouTube channel, across the top, you'll see home, videos, live streams, store, whole bunch of tabs. One of those is community. And when you click on that, you can see like status posts and pictures that we've shared and polls that we're asking you. And that's a great place where content creators are sharing information with you that necessarily isn't right for a video.
right. And it is also available, like if you're on your phone, you can use it. If you use the YouTube app and you go to a certain channel, like SEWBECCA's channel or Tiffany or whoever, if you scroll across at the top where it says videos, live, shorts, and so forth, the community is up there. You might have to scroll across a little bit, but it is available on the YouTube app as well.
Gotcha. Looks like Beth went home today and her procedure was today. So for those of you curious.
Okay.
I do have a couple of people asking about how far in advance can you book the hotel at Quilt Con and how far in advance can you buy tickets. So for Quilt Con 2024, the hotel will open reservations, I think in May or June, sometime around there, but you might want to check the website to make sure. As far as tickets, workshops, and lectures go, this for QuiltCon 2023, that went on sale in August of 2022. So I would expect the same type of schedule for 2024. The pricing, though, I'll let you know this, if you are a member of the Modern Quilt Guild, and you can be just an individual member, you don't have to join a guild. The price to be an individual member is $35. So it's not astronomical, it's totally affordable. But if you pay that, then you can get into the show for free. And you will get a discounted rate for any lectures or workshops that you choose to take. If you are not interested in being a part of the guild, then you just have to pay, I think, $35 for your 4-day pass. And Ian just texted me and said, August is correct. That's when everything will go on sale for QuiltCon 2024.
Yeah, I think the 4-day pass was $40. I was looking at that today.
Gotcha.
So if you get the membership for $35 and it's free admission, then that's a no-brainer.
Sorry, I am dealing with allergies. This is not a cold, but nose is running a bit and I need to take my Claritin. So I'm dealing with a little bit of congestion issue. Yeah, that, I mean, save $5, go to the show for free. And if you choose to take a workshop, save yourself some more money.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that'll be a lot of fun next year. So
yeah, I'm really excited. Okay, so next year, I have to remember that there are a lot of quilts at Quilt Con. I felt, if I'm being completely honest, I felt very underwhelmed by the volume of quilts at Quilt Con on day 1 and 2, because I did not realize that there was a third floor at Quilt Con with nothing but quilts. So on the first and second floor of the vendor hall, they had quilts at the front on display. And so I looked at every one of those multiple times on day 1 and 2. And I was like, okay, I've seen all the quilts. And somebody was like, have you been to the third floor? I was like, there's a third floor. So next year, I have to remember to carve out a good chunk of time to really appreciate all of the quilts, because by the time I made my way up to the third floor, I didn't have enough time to see all of the quilts, and the ones that I did see, I ran past. I didn't get to stop and really take it all in.
yeah, and I think you really do need to carve out a decent amount of time just to peruse. And
Yeah.
it's like, even at the smaller shows, like, don't feel like you have to look at each and every one. If it's not your aesthetic, move on to something that is your aesthetic, because there
Oh,
was,
absolutely.
I mean, I can't remember how many quilts there was at MidAtlantic, but I mean, there would have had to have been 300 or 400 would be my estimate. I mean, I took a couple of hundred photos, and I only took the ones that I were my favorites, because I was like, I do not have the time or the energy or probably the storage space to take pictures of each and one. So, I mean, I took just the ones I thought were nice, and I'll share those on different videos as time goes on. But yeah, I mean, I say just see, but take your time with it. Stop and look at the ones that you really enjoy. One of the ones I really thought was neat is I got to see some of the quilts that were at the state fair last year were also in the competition here.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
because there was one there that was like had little sailboats and everything else, and I was like, I remember that one. And then I looked at the quilter, and I'm like, yep, that's the same lady. It's the same quilt.
That's awesome. Ironically, I should have had a quilt hanging at MidAtlantic. The quilt guild that one of the quilt guilds that I belong to is called Cabin Branch Quilters. And they took, I think it was the Circle Challenge for the MidAtlantic Quilt Show. And they asked all of us to make quilts to enter in for that challenge, for that display. And all we had to do was something that featured circles. We could have made a normal quilt and quilted it with circles. We could have done circular piecing. We could have done applique. It didn't matter. And I had fully intended to make something and enter it, but time got away from me. I didn't get a chance to make anything. So sadly, I did not have a quilt in the challenge, but my guild was very well represented.
Oh, it was, and they had some beautiful circular quilts, because I know exactly which challenge you're talking about. And I did spend some time in that area looking at the stuff for the circles and thinking, yeah, that's not for me. Unless it's applique. Like I've tried doing circular stuff in the past and trying to get everything to match up. Like the ice cream quilt behind me, that was supposed to be that was supposed to be traditional piecing. And I sat there and I fought with it, and I fought with it, and I fought with it, and I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be applique. And applique was how it ended up. So yeah, that one there especially was one of the things that I was just very impressed by, all the people that did that challenge. So hats off to them.
There were so many quilts at there were a lot of quilts at Quilt Con, but there were a few that were very memorable for me. There was a Joan of Arc quilt that was mind-blowing. It was gorgeous. There was a pixel quilt made by, her handle is Pixel Quilt on Instagram, but there was a pixel quilt of Maya Angelou, and all of the blocks were log cabin blocks. So it was a pixel quilt made out of log cabins, and it was a really good picture of her. There was also a really good portrait quilt of RuPaul, which I thought was amazingly done. But there was one that made me laugh because it reminded me of Ian. So I don't know if you've seen or heard, he made a quilt that he has entered into a show and it got accepted. It's a miniature quilt, really small, little mini quilt. And it's got two fabrics in it. Black fabric, it's like the black fairies from the Tula Pink line as the background. And then he foundation paper pieced 4 letters out of this white fabric that has bananas all over it. And the word is SHI. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he calls it this blank is bananas. It is. So as I was at Quilt Con and we're walking around, I come around the corner and there's this great big quilt, and it is in ombre pastel purples. It starts at dark and it goes down, and it has three words on it that are pieced into it. The first one is the F-bomb, the next one is the word this, and then the last one is that same 4-letter word that Ian put on his quilt. And kind of chuckled to myself as soon as I saw it because it just reminded me of his quilt. But the statement that they wrote to go with the quilt, the story, it's a political piece, and the story that's behind the quilt is pretty strong. And it was actually well written, but yeah, that one caught me off guard, and that was a very memorable quilt. I'm surprised that it was hanging because it was literally 3 words and 2 of them were expletives.
Hmm.
Anyway.
And that's one of the things I liked about the quilt shows is that they a lot of times they have the story behind the quilts there next to it, which you don't get at the state fair.
Oh, you don't?
Oh, no, basically you have like it like what class it's in, and then the person's name, and that's it, because it's hanging, 15 feet in the sky.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So I mean, you couldn't really do it. So I mean, that's one of the things I really enjoy about going to the shows is I can actually get to read the story about, like there was one where a lady and her friend went to the Outer Banks, which is in North Carolina, not far from here, and on a girls' weekend, and they would go to do this, I don't know, go to the beach and stuff. But because it was raining, they ended up staying inside and quilting, and they made this beautiful quilt. And it's just, just hearing all the inspirational stories just is always awesome.
Yeah, it is. I didn't get, and that's the piece that I missed, right? Because I didn't get to spend as much time looking at all the details on the quilts and reading the statements and just absorbing all of the inspiration and all of the quilts. I didn't spend that much time on the 3rd floor. I missed that. Next year, I'm going to remedy that though. And I get to go for the Quilt Guild at the end of March. Gosh, it's March already. At the end of this month, when my Quilt Guild does their show, I volunteered my time on both Friday and Saturday. And I took Ian's advice, and I'm going to do the white glove. I'm going to do a white glove shift. So I'm definitely get to see the quilts because I'll be walking around with the gloves.
There you go. That sounds good. Yeah, and it's nice seeing the people with the white gloves because they actually get to show you the back. And it was interesting. I think it was the Best in Show at MidAtlantic. They lifted up the back and it was all Tula pink on the back.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to share a photo or the video of that at some point down the road, which is something I intend on doing soon. But yeah, it wasn't what I expected because there was a little bit of Tula on the front, but was not expecting to see all the Tula on the back.
That's awesome. That reminds me of one of the volunteers that I saw at Quilt Con. So at Quilt Con, they had blue shirts like the one I'm wearing now that you could buy. So this was my souvenir from Quilt Con. But this same shirt was in like a coral color, pink color that volunteers wore. And then if you were staff, it was a purple color. And it didn't say like volunteer or staff. They just signified what you were by the colors. So that said, there was a lady walking around in a pink volunteer shirt with white gloves on, and she seemed so happy to be there, literally in the most upbeat voice you would ever hear in your life. She was like, if you want to see the back of any quilts, just let me know. Like, she was super excited. And I was just like, wow, she is like happy to be here. She wasn't, it was really kind of cool. I don't know why I brought that up, but anyway, so Tula, let's talk about Tula. Are you ready to talk about the Tula? I have never in my life owned as much Tula fabric as I do right now.
Okay.
This is ridiculous. So I went, I have a layer cake of the line work line from Tula Pink, which I actually really liked. And Tiffany, Ian, and I are going to do a collab where we do something with that layer cake, TBD, date to be announced, but it is coming. And so I knew I needed something that worked with that fabric. And I knew the background fabric I wanted to use was going to be the black fairies on the black fabric that she had from a couple years ago. And I wanted to add bright colors to it. So I immediately knew that while I was at Quilt Con, I wanted to find some bright colors, ideally some yardage or fat quarters of her solids because it would blend nicely with the line. And I went to the Crimson Tate booth and I found a fat quarter bundle of the colors that I was looking for. So I picked it up. And then I saw a Fat 8 bundle of some other colors that I also thought might be good, and I couldn't decide which one, so I bought that as well. And then I walked across the booth to another vendor and I found the tiny dots, and I thought that was great, so I got that as well. So I've got like these 3 fat quarter bundles of the solids of Tula, which aren't really that bad. They're solids. You can kind of use them for whatever you want. But this is the other thing that I did. I am super excited about this because I am going to make a butterfly.
That thing is so neat.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. It's going to take me a long time to do. There's going to be a story behind it that I will share with everybody once the quilt is put together. But I will tell you, I saw somebody finish this. I saw that quilt hanging at the Stonehouse Guild quilt show in September of last year, and my jaw hit the floor when I saw that quilt in person. Photos and videos of this quilt just do not do it justice. It is so much more beautiful in person. So I'm really excited to do this. I know it's going to take me a long time, but I feel like this has kind of pushed me over the edge into the world of the Tula. Do you want to help me with this, Sean? Do you want to do some blocks? It's going to take me forever.
Well, that's how I feel about old Toasty.
Great. Let's see who can finish their project first. Spoiler alert, I don't even have the pattern.
That'll be our chance. We'll see who.
That might actually be okay because you don't have the fabric for your pattern. I have the fabric, no pattern. You have the pattern with no fabric.
Yeah. So
That's funny.
We'll see what happens with that. So
yeah, it'll come together. What are you thinking? Okay, so I got the Ursa Minor legit kit, and I wasn't sure how I felt about legit kits until I pulled it out and looked at the pattern, and I saw how everything was laid out. Now that you have the pattern there, now that you have everything in front of you minus the fabric, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I mean, I think it's very well done. Like, I remember watching the interview that Donna did with Mike, because I'd heard about them in the past, and I saw the price tag, and I was like, yeah, there's absolutely no way. Like, I just don't know how you can spend that sort of money on a kit, But then, like, you look at the Tula kits, and they're like, what, $250, $300, I think, if my memory's correct.
Actually, that's a really good point. So your legit kits are about $300 or $400 for like a 60 by 80 kit, and they give you all of the pattern, that whole book that you've got, plus all of your fabric labeled. Just the fabric pack for the butterfly was $249.95, and that is the cheapest I have ever seen. I will tell you, on Missouri Star, they still have this. This is on Missouri Star right now for $279, and that is without the $30 pattern. So
Right.
by the time you add the $30 pattern, this is a $300 kit too. So, it's actually a really good point. Like $300 for legit kit, $300 for Tula Pink, you're still saying you're paying the same amount of money.
Right. And I mean, I also figured I'd just get the pattern too, because I have a lot of solids here. I have so I can shop my stash for a lot of it, especially a lot of the small stuff. So to me, it's very, very well written. I mean, I hate spending money at the best of times. You can ask my wife. But if a pattern is well written and it's worth the money, I'm happy to pay it.
Yep.
And I think the amount of work that Mike and the rest of the team have put into this, I think it's worth the price point.
That's awesome.
Like said, it's 250 pages. This FPP or foundation paper pacing paper is not cheap. I mean, so there's a lot that goes into it, and they have to, the design team has to put it together so you can actually figure it out. It's not cheap, unfortunately.
So Quiltessa is offering her, she has an extra pattern for the Tula Pink fabric, and she's offering it to Ian. Just send it here. I have a pile of stuff that's waiting for Ian because, spoiler alert, Ian will be coming to visit in the next little while. So, I mean, you can send it to him if you want to, but you could also just send it to me.
There you go.
Man, I feel like my brain is just slowly turning off, Sean. It's
I
that.
don't know how I don't know how you do it on a Friday night. Like a lot of times I'm trying to keep my eyes open just to watch the live. And I'm like, I don't know how you work full time and then you hop up here Friday night and host every week. I mean,
Do you know what my secret is for Friday night? I'll tell you my secret. I get to work from home on Fridays.
I
That's
do
how I do
too.
Friday. There's no commute. So Fridays have to have, and I didn't have it, and I think that's why I'm fading a little bit. But Fridays, I work, and then about 4:30, my workday ends. And so I shut off the computer, log off. I have dinner with the family about 5 o'clock, and we always do. Jason, my husband, loves routines, and he has one routine that he is particularly proud of. Friday nights are hot dog nights here. Don't ask. I don't know. I don't know. So we have hot dogs Friday nights at 5 o'clock. And then usually about 5:30, I go upstairs and I lay down for an hour or two so that I can be rested for the live stream. I didn't do that tonight because we started watching a movie as a family. We're watching I have a ghost, or it's a movie on Netflix. It's I think a new movie. We Have a Ghost or something like that. It's a cute movie. It's very fun. Very family friendly. We're watching it right now. We got about halfway through, and then we decided we're going to pick up the rest of it tomorrow. So I didn't take a nap. I watched a movie instead.
There you go. Yeah, naps are always important.
Oh, naps are important. I think I'm ready for another one, especially the allergies kicking my butt. Is there anything else? Well, we haven't talked about this. You have a YouTube channel, Sean. You want to talk to us about what you do over on your channel?
Oh, I think most people know already, but
I don't care. Talk about it anyway.
okay. Well, yeah, my name is Sean, and my channel is called The Guy Who Sews, and I basically came up with a name years ago. I used to sell project bags on Etsy for knitters and crocheters, and I had a different shop name, and I can't remember what it was, and I kept getting these comments. It's like, oh, look, it's a guy who sews. It's a guy who sews, and a guy who sews. That shop name was taken, but the guy who sews was not. So that became my shop name. And then I had a graphic design friend of mine design the logo for me. And then when I decided to do the YouTube thing, I just brought the logo over and have been using it ever since. But I do a variety of videos. My main things is my Saturday morning live at 8 o'clock. So if anybody is an early bird, you can always come join and hang out with me. So it's 8 o'clock Eastern. I know it's really, really early for the folks on the West Coast, but I try and it's the best time it works for me and my family. And then on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern, I'll have my podcast, which I think Becca talked about hers. Basically, I just go through and show what projects I've been working on during the week, what progress I've made, and then I talk a little bit about what videos I've made and what's coming up and that sort of thing there. So you just kind of get an overview of what I get done during the week. And then I'll show other videos up during the week. Sometimes I'll do tutorials or collabs with other creators and that sort of thing in there as well. But that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. I love it. And tomorrow, what are you planning for your live stream tomorrow morning?
I think I've got my mate Russ from Quilt Meets World joining me, and he's going to hang out with me. Usually what I do is I have a guest each week, because going live by yourself is a special talent, and I can do it, but I do prefer to have someone to talk to rather than just the camera. So I usually have a guest, and we'll just sit there and chat and sew usually for about an hour and a half. And I think I'm going to be working on the Express Yourself quilt, which is a series of these blocks.
Oh, that's really pretty. What other colors are you using in that quilt?
I am going to use a full rainbow. I mean, I've done the red,
wow.
the yellow, and there's an orange. And then it's a good thing I kept it right here next to me. So
It sure is. You must have known I was going to ask.
Yeah, pink and green, and I'm thinking about actually adding a little more because right now it's 48 by 48, and I'm thinking I want to make it into a lap quilt, so I might just add like another row or two, but we'll see what happens. I'll make these up first, and then if I feel like making more, I will, and if not, then I'll just call it a day and sew them together.
I love that. I've been thinking about making a rainbow quilt, but I haven't decided on a pattern. I know I want to do something with rainbow colors and have a rainbow gradient, and I just don't know what that's going to be yet. But as I'm looking at this butterfly, I'll hold it back up. This has kind of got a rainbow look to it. Not necessarily in the rainbow order starting at red, but it's got that rainbow gradient on it. So maybe this will be my rainbow. Maybe this will hit my rainbow niche too.
Well, you know me and rainbows. It's my favorite palette to play with. The bear paw is always fun in a rainbow. You can start with red in one corner and work your way down. Pinwheels you can do in rainbow. I mean, the options are really limitless. I mean, you can do stars in a rainbow arrangement.
Wait, Love Loathingly is saying you should do the legit kit quilt along. Is that the Vortex one? Because I will be doing that one.
Is that the monthly block of the month? Is that what she's referring to? Because I know
I'm guessing so. If that's what she's referring to, then I am going to be doing that. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, and that is rainbow-ish too. So
yeah.
Oh man.
Tiffany says she made a rainbow quilt for Ian. So
she did, and it's gorgeous, and it hangs above his bed, and it's beautiful.
I'll have to go take a look at that. I didn't know she did that, but everything is beautiful. So
I don't remember if she posted that on YouTube. I know I saw it a lot on Marco Polo in one-on-one video clips because she was keeping it a surprise for him. I don't know if she shared it, but you know who can share it? Ian can post pictures.
So I can always hit him up for send him an email or something and get it from him. I'll see it at some point.
Yep, it's gorgeous.
And he says he loves the quilt, so that's good.
Sean, I think I am going to end, and I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to get under my covers, and I am going to sleep. I'm tired.
All right, that sounds good. And then if you're up early in the morning and you're bored,
I'm, I usually wake up about 7 or 7:30 naturally on my own. I've adjusted my schedule at work so that the days that I go into the office, I start a little bit later, but it allows me to wake up at the same time every day of the week so that I'm not waking up early when I have to go into the office and waking up later when I get to work from home. It just is more consistent for me.
Right.
But the hindsight of that is I'm usually up at 7 or 7:30, and there are a lot of times where I am in my sewing room and your live stream is playing and I'm not really active in the chat because I am busy working. And so my keyboard is usually put away and I'm just listening to your podcast or your live stream while I'm working. So I appreciate those early morning sews because I feel like I have somebody to sew with, even if I'm not interacting in the chat.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm the same way of yours sometimes. Like I have to buckle down. I don't, because I feel like you can either chat or sew, but you can't really do both.
The other night, or there was a vlog a couple weeks ago, I had taken some B-roll of me working on something. I don't remember what it was, but I was watching your live stream and I decided to pull the keyboard out. So I had the keyboard sitting here and I was sewing, but every so often I was like over here typing, then I was sewing, then I was over here typing. And I don't know if I used that whole clip, but it was funny when I was editing the video and I went back and looked at it, I was like, man, am I typing? Am I chatting? Am I sewing? What am I doing? So I'm all over the place. Pick one.
You should put it in and go, this is multitasking.
You know what? That's probably why some of the Jolly Bottom blocks has been messed up because I was too busy chatting.
It happens. Catherine Taggart is asking, what fabric line am I using for the rainbow quilt? It's beautiful. Are you referring to this one?
Yeah,
Because
she is.
see, I just use Kona cotton. Actually, no, I lie. Some of it's Kona, and then some of it's leftovers from the Solar Flare quilt, which I think was, I want to say it was Moda, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look that up now. But yeah, I mean, I use Kona for just about everything solids, unless it was a kit. So
Do you work with a lot of solids?
yes,
Okay.
I use solids for just about everything. Like a lot of my stuff is Elizabeth Hartman is great with solids, along with Art East, and that's the stuff I've been drawn to recently. And I just like working with solids. I know it's unusual. It's not what everybody else does, but I don't have to worry about what the right and the wrong side is, so it's easy. And a yard of a solid is like $6.50 a yard. So I mean, it's about half the price of
Yeah.
something else. So I mean, your money goes twice as far. And
You know, I was sitting here with a stupid expression on my face because I was recalling some of the quilts that I've seen you make. And save for the puzzle mystery quilt, which you are now an ambassador for, so congratulations on that. Save for the puzzle mystery quilt, I feel like everything that I have seen you work on that I remember has been solid. So that's why I was like, wait, I don't remember seeing you work with a lot of prints. I see you work with a lot of solids. Yeah, that's interesting.
I do work with boutiques. And I think the reason I don't work with a lot of prints is I don't particularly like florals.
Okay, I can understand.
Yeah, I'm very, very picky when it comes to prints. I do enjoy the novelty fabrics, like, the stuff with food or that sort of thing there. But other than that, I'm very, very picky when it comes to prints. So I think that's one of the reasons I've gone to boutiques, because there's not many boutiques I don't enjoy or a solid, because, it's just a whole lot easier for my aesthetic and what I
Yeah.
like to.
I'm trying to pick my words carefully here because I don't know what I can say or what he would like me to hold back. So I'll just say, I know a better way I can say it. I can leave him out of this entirely. So I normally don't do a lot with solids. However, as a quilter, I know that our tastes evolve and change over time. Sometimes we're drawn to pink and that's our favorite color for 20 years. And then all of a sudden we're just kind of done working with pink. We don't want to work with it anymore. There's a new favorite color that's kind of come into our world. I have never been a solids fan. And I'll tell you the reason why is because I wanted my quilt to have a lot of texture and a lot of movement. And that texture and movement in the print, or not in the solid, not having the solid, tends to hide boo-boos and mistakes in quilting.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm getting more confident in my quilting skills, those solids let those stitches shine. And I'm really starting to be drawn to them more, especially when they're in my color palette.
Yeah.
I'm starting to enjoy working with solids a bit more than I did this time last year.
Well, good.
Yeah.
And I think another thing with the solids that I'm thinking of now that I'm moving more into the free motion world is I don't have to worry about, am I going to cover up this print?
Oh, yeah.
I can quilt it to death. I can do whatever I want with it because I'm not worried about this beautiful fabric, this beautiful print getting covered up by quilt work. I mean, I can just go to town, I can do whatever I want and not have to worry about it because I'm not covering anything up.
Yeah. I was looking at the quilt that I have hanging on the wall, and so I have got stars, and the stars are the prints, and then the tone on tone white is the background. And I was like, wait, did I cover up the print with the quilting? Well, did Tucker cover up the print with the quilting? And he didn't, because he didn't quilt that fabric at all. That's an interesting point. I like that.
I was just thinking about that the other day because I was like, now that I've got my, my handy dandy rulers, and I'm going to start doing more of that. I was like, I don't have to worry about, covering the print.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you know what else, that if you're thinking about the print, right? The other thing that the solid can do for you, and the batiks, I think the batiks are the same way most of the time. You don't have to worry about how you're going to cut it. I've said this before. The thing that scares me with Tula is cutting Tula, because she's usually got prints in there that I want to show. I most of the time, if I like a Tula line, I like the artwork, and it feels like a sin to cut halfway through a zebra or a raccoon. And if I need 5 inches, then I need 5 inches. And if I start to spiral and go down this rabbit trail that literally paralyzes me and prevents me from cutting her fabric.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with that with solids or with tiny prints or tosses or non-directionals or batiks.
Mhm. Yeah. Give solids a try. I'm a
Right.
huge proponent of that. So if I can, inspire a couple of people to do that, my job here is done.
Well, you have, and I will say you can't, let's see, can I point? There we go. This pile right here are words are hard. These are all art gallery solids that I picked up at a quilt show in my color palette that I absolutely love. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but they were beautiful. They are beautiful together. They are beautiful separately, and I just wanted them. So they're sitting there waiting for the right project. We'll see what I do with them.
Yep.
Anyway, I think that's it for me tonight. So you guys can find Sean on his channel Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern time. You can also find his weekly podcast on Sunday mornings, and then anytime in between his videos pop up. And the fun thing is if you haven't checked out Sean's Saturday morning lives and you would like to see this dynamic again, I will be joining him on Saturday, March 18th at 8 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to work on our puzzle mystery quilt clues together. I will be doing clue number 2 on this channel, but I will also be doing clue number 2 with him on his channel because I bit the bullet and I bought another kit.
I was wondering how that's going to work.
I've been eyeballing the colorway Bluebell. Have you seen that one? The blues and the grays.
Oh, okay.
So pretty. Ian noticed it. He was mentioning it. I was watching. I looked at it. I liked it, but he wanted to pull it and do it, and he wanted to do it a second one, and then I wanted to do it, and I didn't. I ended up just doing it. So I bought another large kit. So every month I'm going to do one clue on my own and then one clue on the channel. I'll do the begonia here, just like I did last month, and we'll do for all the other ones. But my Bluebell, I'm going to sew with you on the 18th. I already did clue number 1, so I'm all caught up and ready to go.
Right.
But that way I'm not going to sit there twiddling my thumbs. I'm going to work on a clue with you.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. What colorway are you doing again?
Doing the lavender.
Lavender, that's right. Is that the batik?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the second choice that I had on my list. Begonia, that coral and the begonia got me.
Yeah, well, begonia was my first choice, but I was told someone already had it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I found out later on it was you. But I'm enjoying the lavender because it's providing me of a new challenge, because last year I did the Benet, which was all different colors. And this time, because all the lavender fabrics are so similar, I'm really having to sit there and watch and be really careful and mindful. And it's teaching me new skills. So I'm excited for the challenge. And it's, I think I'm going to be a better quilter because of it when I'm done.
I'm tired of putting together purple puzzle mystery quilts, so you are welcome to it. Although I was drawn to it and I almost wanted it, but the coral and the sea life motif on the batiks for Begonia, I mean, that was like nail, coffin, done. That's it. That's what I was doing. I was lucky to get it. I was happy to get it.
Yeah.
Next time, maybe we'll talk offline. We'll make sure that your number one and my number one aren't the same. And
No, I'm not. I mean, I was just ecstatic that they asked me to do it. So I mean, I'm not worried about it. They told me to pick three, and I picked three, and that was the one I was given. And I'm very, very happy with it. But yeah, after Robin said that the begonia was already gone, I was like, I wonder who has that. I was like, I'll figure it out eventually. And then,
I mean, come on, Sean, it was a batik. Did you even have to guess?
well, I figured you were doing like, I was surprised lavender was available because like that's Becca's line. Like she would be perfect.
I mean, it's true. Like all the other ones have been purple. So you're like, oh, the purple's available.
I mean, I picked purple because it was fun, and purple's Amanda's favorite color. So I figured, well, I'll put it in there just for kicks and giggles. But I was like, I know Becca's already got that one. So
Well, there you go. There you go. Hey, also before we go, you are now writing for the Cotton Cuts blog too, right?
I've done one for them. I haven't done anything else, but yes, I mean, I will do more for them whenever they need me to.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll
So
have to
if
go
you
on the topic.
what was the topic that you did for the first blog post?
Just like it was about setting yourself goals for the year, or it's quilting goals in general, and just like how just tips that I think would be helpful to help you achieve that, because I know we all get so many ideas in our head, and it's just, I think a bit of organization helps with that. And I am not perfect by any stretch. I do not have all the answers. But it was something I was thinking about, and then Robin was asking for people to write, and I was like, you know what, let me put my hand in the ring and see what happens.
Well, I'm glad you did. You never know. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't try to take, right?
Exactly.
The butterfly pattern that you're asking about for the Tula Pink kit here, the pattern and the fabric pack. This is the fabric pack. They are sold separately. So the kit does not come with the pattern. You have to buy the pattern, and then you have to buy the fabric separately. And you can buy these from a number of different places. Etsy, Fat Quarter Shop, if they still have them in stock. I will tell you, Missouri Star does have them in stock right now. I think they're about $280 for the fabric pack, and then the pattern usually runs about $30-ish at those same locations. Check your local quilt shops, check your online quilt shops. I did score, by the way, I didn't tell you this story. I'll tell you the story and then we'll go.
Okay.
This was a retail price of $249.95. And when I saw this in person in September, we left the quilt show and we went to my local quilt shop, and they had the fabric pack there, and it was like $280 in the quilt shop. And I picked it up, I looked at the price tag, and I set it back down, and I walked out. I did not buy it because I did not want to spend $300 on a fabric pack.
Mm-hmm.
And I regretted it a lot, because I knew how beautiful that quilt was when it was all done, and this just doesn't do it justice, right? But I figured it just wasn't meant to be, so I just moved on with my life. Well, at Quilt Con, we walked by the Crimson Tate booth. I did a little bit of shopping in that booth. May have spent more money at that booth than most of the others. But at the Crimson Tate booth, they had this quilt kit fabric pack propped up with a 30% off sticker. And we stopped by, and I was talking to Heather, who owns Crimson Tate, and she was like, we have the Tula Pink butterfly. And I was like, I know, it's really pretty. And she was like, it's yours. You can take it home. It's 30% off. And I was like, I don't know. I need to think about it. And then she was like, we have two of them. And Mary was there with me. And Mary was like, well, maybe I could get one and you could get one. And then at that point, Heather and like two other staff members decided it was time to start chanting. So they were clapping, going, take it home. Take it home. Take it home. I was like, I need to think about this. So we walked away, and I have a special story about this quilt and this pattern and all of this. And it'll be part of the story of the quilt that I'm not ready to share with everybody just yet, but I will share it at some point down the road. But I shared that story with Mary as we were sitting down talking about the quilt and the kit and why I was drawn to it, what I was thinking. And I decided I was going to buy it. So I got up and I walked back, and it was only like 15 minutes that we were sitting at the table talking about why I was drawn to this and why I wanted it. About 15 minutes go by. I get up, I walk back to the Crimson Tape booth, and Heather's talking to somebody, and she's standing right in front of the table where this fabric pack is. And I just kind of looked at her and I slowly reached in and picked it up. And after it, like, I put my hand on it and I pulled it back, and she said, "That's the last one." In that 15 minutes that I was gone, somebody had come and bought the second fabric pack. If I would have waited even just a little bit longer, that would have been gone too. So that was the universe's way of saying this one was meant for me.
Yep.
I can't wait to share the story of this quilt when I'm ready to put it out there, but I'm really excited to do this. And then I got home and I realized it wasn't a kit. I had to buy the pattern.
Oh, well.
So anyway, I did buy the pattern. It is en route. I will start after the pattern gets here. Right now, I am just eyeballing this very beautiful zipper bag with lots of pretty fabric in it.
It'll be fun for you. Look forward to seeing the progress updates on your podcast each week.
Absolutely. I am looking forward to sharing those with everybody. And then I am looking forward to the final reveal when it is all said and done. And I think that's, I have taken a page out of your book with the podcast. And I just want to, I know we talked about this offline before. I owe you such a huge thank you for inspiring me to do those weekly podcasts. You've been doing those for a little over a year now. And this format is so freeing to me, because I'm spending more time creating quilts and sewing and less time recording. Before I leaned into that podcast series, it was starting to feel like I couldn't sew anything because everything I sewed had to be recorded. And then after I recorded it, I had to edit everything. And that was getting to be overwhelming. When I'm one person running all of this, I can't do all of those things.
Yeah.
So this format where I just get to show you what I'm doing and talk about it in a podcast style format, and then when it's done, I can do a quilt story reveal where I talk about the entire quilt, the start to finish, and give you steps along the way. I'm really enjoying this format. So thanks for that inspiration.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, you just, it's like you said, it's very free. You get to do what you want, because at the end of the day, you should do what's fun. It's your craft time. Do what's fun. And yeah, I'm glad you decided to do it. I know I've been trying to talk you into it now for months, and I'm glad you finally, took the plunge and gave it a go.
Well, you get to buy indirectly. You have also inspired Ian to start a vlog too. He's doing it monthly. At the end of every month, he's doing a month recap, and he just posted his February in review video over on his channel. So you'll have to check that out too. Look at this whole circle that you're starting, like inspiring all these people to do podcasts and vlogs, more sharing and less tutorials, which is an absolute awesome format. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. I will share, like, it's probably like a little secret, but that was kind of my goal, because
oh really?
Yes, because how it all started, we're doing like this Southern goodbye where it's taken like an hour. But my wife watches a lot of knitting podcasts, and like over on the knitting YouTube community, everybody does these podcasts. I mean, that's where I kind of got the idea to format everything else. I kind of just lifted it from the knitting world. And I came over to the quilting YouTube community, and I was like, okay, where's the podcast? And I went around and looked for them, and there wasn't any. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to start one. So and then hopefully others will see it and start their own. So I'll actually have podcasts to watch as well. So, So my little dastardly plan of actually having people to watch podcast-wise is actually starting to come into fruition. So thank you all for doing that.
I could just see you sitting, like, loading up your little podcast with a cup of coffee going, just content creators speak for you a little bit. Funny enough, YouTube must have picked up on that too, because they have launched yesterday podcast playlists in Creator Studio. So next time you're in Creator Studio and you're messing around managing your videos, there should be a new tab called podcast. And all essentially it is a special type of playlist that keeps all of those episodes in one uniform playlist so your viewers can get to it a whole lot quicker.
Oh, okay, because I haven't saved it all on the playlist, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you can very easily convert that playlist to a podcast playlist, and it comes with its own thumbnail and everything.
Okay.
Read up on what all that is, but that's what I ended up doing with my weekly vlogs, aka podcast, which I have dubbed Stitch Please. Anyway, 30 minutes later, I should go to bed.
Yep, that's how some it's like you do it like, yeah, you start about an hour before you actually want to leave.
It feels a little bit like those conversations that you have with your friends in high school. You're like, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. So, all right, Sean. If anybody wants to find you, they can find you on your channel tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And then again, your podcast on Sunday. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I will see you in a couple of weeks when we do clue number 2 on your channel on Saturday morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure hanging out with you and everybody else in the chat.
Yeah.